So those are the different kinds of microorganisms and macroorganisms found in the soil. So we discussed their advantages, their disadvantages, and aside from that, they also produce toxins. There are two types of toxins. We have the organic and the inorganic toxins. These organic toxins are the antibiotics and carbon-based chemicals. The inorganic toxins are heavy metals such as the arsenic, cadmium, mercury, lead, copper, zinc, manganese, nickel, and radionuclides. And most of them are trace elements. Yun nga lang, they occur present naturally, but if their amount in the soils are present at concentration or in a chemical form that can be toxic for living organisms, hindi na siya ganun kaganda because it poses hazard to environment and human health. These are the potential sources of toxins. So we have the soil microorganisms, the decomposing organic materials, plant roots, and the sewage sludge. So as a summary, these are the ranking of soil microbial groups in relation to antibiotic production. First is actinomycetes, second is fungi, the third is bacteria. This is only for antibiotic production. What are the mode of actions of antibiotics? They disrupt the cell wall synthesis, particularly the penicillin and the cephalosporin, and they also disturb and disrupt the protein synthesis, the streptomycin and the chloramphenicol. They inhibit cell membrane functions, the polymyxin, and they also inhibit DNA, RNA function for rifampicin. And also, we discussed also that they have effect in the production of growth-stimulating substances. And for this, particularly inorganic phosphorus solubilization, these are the genera of bacteria capable of solubilizing calcium phosphate. We have the Pseudomonas, Bacillus, Mycobacterium, and Mycococcus. And these are the genera of fungi capable of solubilizing calcium phosphate. Penicillium, Aspergillus, and Fusarium. And these are the microbiological means by which inorganic phosphorus is solubilized. The production of organic acids, the nitric acid or sulfuric acid production, the flooding resulting in the production of iron in insoluble ferric phosphates, and the mycorrhizal association, which is related to organic production. So these are the different types of mycorrhiza. When we say mycorrhiza, it is the association between roots and the fungi. Roots and the fungi. And this is a symbiotic arrangement. This is found in about 90% of all land plants and exists for approximately 400 million years. So mycorrhiza is not a new thing. It exists for approximately 400 million years, wherein the plant roots are hospitable size for the fungi to anchor and produce their threads or hyphae. So there are two kinds, the ectotrophic and the endomycorrhiza. Ectotrophic happens when the fungus forms a mantle around root exteriors. The hyphae enters into spaces between plant cells. An example of these are the pine and eucalyptus. That is for the ectotrophic. Endomycorrhiza is that the fungus penetrates the cells of the plants. An example of that are the orchids, coffee, fruit trees, rice, and corn. Soil organic matter refers to the totality of all carbon-containing compounds in the soil derived from either plants or animals. And these are the organic constituent of plants. So we have cellulose, which is 15 to 60%, hemicellulose 10 to 30%, the lignin 5 to 30%, water-soluble fractions like the amino sugar, amino acids, and proteins, and we have the fats, oils, and waxes. So these are the different sources of organic matter. So we have the manure here, the kitchen waste, and the plant litters. All of this, especially the plants, they are mostly consist of cellulose, lignin, and other components. The decomposition of soil organic matter is a biological process that includes the physical breakdown and biochemical transformation of complex organic molecules of dead material into simpler organic and inorganic molecules. The composition of soil organic matter is carried out by heterotrophs. Ano nga yung heterotrophs? Heterotrophs are organisms relying on other organisms for their source of carbon and energy. And the reactants are compounds containing carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The products are carbon dioxide, water, energy, plant, water nutrients, and resynthesized organic carbon compounds. There are three major factors affecting the speed of decomposition. First is the soil organisms. Ano nga ba yung mga organisms na present sa area? Second is the physical environment. And the third is the quality of the organic matter. When we say soil organisms present in the area, these are the microorganisms which we discuss, the insects, and earthworms. When we say physical environment, these include soil pH, it has to be favorable, temperature, the location of the residue, whether they are in the surface or are they incorporated in the soil, the particle size, kung maliliit siya versus unchopped. Kasi pag malalaki yung mga particle size ng organic matter, it takes longer to decompose compared to chopped or smaller size. Of course, moisture and aeration, because a lot of the microorganisms need oxygen to function. Of course, the quality of the organic matter, and these are mostly chemical factors. It includes the CN ratio, the carbon-nitrogen ratio. What is that? What is their significance? High CN ratio, meaning that there is a slow decomposition. Low CN ratio, meaning there will be a rapid decomposition. Cellulose, which is one of the major components of plants, degrades more rapidly during the process of later decomposition and play a dominant role in earlier stage of decomposition. Lignin, on the other hand, after cellulose, is the most abundant organic material on Earth, and it decomposes slowly, so meaning difficult to degrade, and it will take time to decompose. The phenolic compounds are regarded as the most abundant plant metabolites that are known to decompose progressively. Then we have the compost and composting. Compost are the finished product of composting and used as soil conditioner or slow-release fertilizer. And usong-uso siya ngayon kasi nga medyo mura siya compared ngayon dun sa chemical fertilizer. Composting, on the other hand, is the process of creating humus-like organic materials by piling, mixing, and storing of organic materials under conditions favorable for aerobic decomposition. After composting, the CN ratio of organic material is reduced, so bumababa na siya to about 14 to 20:1. When you are thinking of composting, you need to consider the CN ratio of the material that you are going to use as compost. So pag mababa yung CN ratio niya, meaning mas madali siya ngayong ma-decompose. Mas madali siyang ma-degrade. The pathogenic organisms are destroyed during thermophilic stage, which is around 50 to 75 degrees Celsius, but heavy metals, the inorganic contaminants, are not destroyed. So, as a summary, what are the effects of organic matter on plant growth? As organic matter decays, growth-promoting substances are released, such as vitamins, amino acids, auxins, and gibberellins that stimulate growth of both higher plant and microorganisms. At the same time, it has also an allelopathic effect, especially when the decomposing crop residues left on the soil surface because it inhibits the germination and growth of the next crop. It doesn't apply to everything. Some of them has an aliphatic effect. For example, wheat residues inhibit the germination and growth of sorghum. So you have to consider the materials that you are going to incorporate. And it has an influence on soil properties. So for biological properties, organic matter provides food for the heterotrophic organisms. It accumulates soil organic matter and it increases microbial activity. For chemical properties, it increases the cation exchange capacity of the soil. It increases micronutrient availability through chelation. And it alleviates aluminum toxicity by binding aluminum in non-toxic complexes. And of course, for physical properties, it gives surface horizons dark brown to black color. It encourages granulation and aggregate stability. It helps reduce plasticity, cohesion, and stickiness in clayey soils. And it increases infiltration rate and water holding capacity of the soil. So this table shows the generalized effect of major soil management practices on the overall diversity and abundance of soil microorganisms. So we have to note that the practices that tend to enhance biological diversity and activity in soils are also those associated with efforts to make agricultural systems more sustainable. So we have here two columns. On the left side, we have a column which decreases biodiversity and population. And the right column, it increases biodiversity and population of microorganisms in the soil. Soil organisms in the soil. It does not only include micro, but it also include macroorganism like the earthworm and other insects found in the soil. So this side, like for example, if you use fumigants, nematicides, some insecticides, when the soil is compacted, when there's erosion, when there's presence of industrial waste and heavy metals, when you use moldboard plow and harrow in tilling your area, when you do monocropping, row crops, bare fallows, and when you burn the residue or you remove the residue of the crops and uses plastic mulches, those practices will decrease the biodiversity and population of organisms in the soil. On the other hand, if you use balanced fertilizer, you apply lime on acid soils, you use proper irrigation, you improve the drainage and aeration, you apply animal manures and compost, you use domestic, meaning clean sewage sludge, you reduce or there's zero tillage, you rotate the crops, you add grass legume pastures, you add cover crops or mulch fallows, you return the residue to the soil surface and you apply organic mulches, all of that increases the biodiversity and population of organisms in the soil. So these are the effect of tillage system and biomass carbon of microbial and faunal group in soils. So in this research, the researchers in Georgia grew grain sorghum in summer and a rye cover crop each winter on a sandy loam. And with plow tillage, the plant residues were mixed into the soil, but with no tillage, meaning hindi nila pinagbubungkal yung lupa, residues were left as surface mulch. So there's a lot of organisms present. So the decomposer, the microphytic feeder, and the detritivore functions were dominated by larger organisms, fungi, microarthropods, and earthworms in that no-till system, while smaller organisms like bacteria, protozoa, nematodes, and intricate worms were more prominent in the cloud system. So let's shortly discuss about carbon cycle. This diagram is copied from UCAR, the Center for Science Education, which they have a simple diagram of carbon cycle. I will try my best to explain it to you as simple as possible. The carbon cycle explains how carbon transfer between different reservoirs located on Earth. And this cycle is very important for maintaining a stable climate and carbon. Carbon is one of the most important chemical elements. Carbon compounds makes up approximately 18% of all the matter in living things and provides the energy used to survive. Through carbon cycle, carbon is constantly used and replaced in nature. It has no starting and ending point, and this process just continue with different steps. So how does it work? Carbon dioxide is present in the atmosphere and is used up by plants together with sunlight for photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a process by which carbon dioxide breaks down into different compounds that can be used as food or nutrition by the plants, releasing oxygen into the atmosphere. Oxygen is very important as we use it to live, and we also eat those plants as our food. Without carbon, there will be no photosynthesis and no oxygen will be released, and there will be no plants for us to eat. Photosynthesis is just one part of the carbon cycle. When we breathe or the animals breathe, we inhale oxygen and we release carbon dioxide through process of respiration. Then, us, the animals, eat those plants, and through this process, the carbon in the plants is transferred to humans and animals. When humans, plants, and animals die, through time, after ilang taon na lumipas, their remains decompose and the carbon transfer from those organisms to the earth or the soil. So yun na, pag namamatay lahat ng mga animals, lahat ng mga tanim at tayo, na-decompose tayo, and through time, all of that will be decomposed and decayed, and the carbon ay lilipat na dun sa lupa. When all of this decompose after a long period of time, fossil fuels will accumulate and are found in Earth's crust. So ano nga ba yung mga fossil fuels? Ito yung mga coal, oil, and natural gases containing carbon and hydrogen na nag-a-accumulate dun sa Earth crust, which can be burned for energy. When these fossil fuels are burned, it releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and serves as a greenhouse gases that keep the earth warm to support life. But don't forget, ocean plays a very important role in the Earth's carbon cycle. Why? Kasi ocean absorbs much of the carbon dioxide that is released from burning fossil fuels. So lahat ng mga carbon dioxide na nare-release sa atmosphere, ocean will absorb much of those carbon dioxide. So paano? Cold surface water, yung malalapit sa mga poles, absorbs more carbon dioxide than warm water. And this cold, dense water sinks to the sea floor, yung pinaka-bottom ng dagat, and flows slowly through ocean basins and in deep ocean currents. Sa pamamagitan ng pagdaloy ng tubig sa dagat at sa mga ocean. And after a long period of time and far from its original location, the water warms and rises again to the surface, releasing carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere, and the cycle continues. So yun yung cycle. If there is an imbalance to this system, pag masyadong maraming carbon yung nare-release dun sa atmosphere, and kukunti lang yung na-absorb or kulang yung na-absorb, Earth becomes warmer than it should be, as there will be too much greenhouse gases. And one way to minimize this effect and this imbalance is to plant more trees and minimize cutting down of trees. Bakit? Ano ang effect ngayon ng tanim? At saka mga punong kahoy. When we plant trees and the tree grows, they take in carbon from the air and store it in the wood, plant matter, and in the soil, and is referred to as carbon sinks. Through the forest, pag maraming tanim na kahoy, punong kahoy, it soaks up or absorbs a lot of carbon dioxide that would otherwise live in the atmosphere. So yun yung cycle. Kaya very, very important na maintindihan natin to kasi it's a very, very important for maintaining a stable climate. So that ends our topic for the biological properties of the soil. I hope you learned something from this video, and don't forget to watch out for our next video, which will be about soil conservation and management. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to like this video and share it to your friends for their reference, and let me know if you have some questions or comments. See you again next time. Bye!